Mom accidentally flushes her wedding ring in the toilet. 9 years later, gets a strange message at the door. Losing something is never a nice feeling. We all have days when we by accident lose something from our possession. Although it may just be a few bucks, losing an item of ours can bum us out immediately. So just imagine losing something valuable with a lot of sentimental value. It would be devastating, right? Well, this woman lost one of her most prized possessions, but later she realized the bigger picture. We can all relate to how sad it is when we lose an item of ours that has more or less become a part of ourselves. Most of us wear a necklace or a ring that holds sentimental value. It could have been a gift from a loved one or a purchase after so much work. So this lady was all of a sudden feeling rather strange. It felt naked and could sense that something of hers had gone missing. So this lady had been doing her daily chores and was tired of all the work she'd done. It had been a busy day, and now she was finally ready to get into bed and get a good night's sleep. So she ran to the faucet to wash her face and cleanse herself. But as she cupped her hands to splash the water, she was left in shock. She let out a loud scream right after. So what exactly did she lose then? Well, we all know that a couple often exchanges rings as a sign of devotion and promise to one another. This lady had been married to the love of her life, so she obviously wore a ring to signify their bond. And we all know that a ring is a symbol of undying love for couples across the globe, and that every woman loves diamonds. Then, if a ring that your lover gave you was so precious, how would you feel if you happened to lose this? If your partner's token of never-ending love met with a terrible accident, how would that leave you? We all know that jewelry is something that every girl loves and adores, so losing it would be devastating. It would be worse if it came from a lover. So the time that this lady lost her ring was years ago. In fact, it had been 9 long years since the unfortunate incident had happened. Who's the lady to have met with this unfortunate accident? Well, her name's Paula Stanton of New Jersey. It was such an uneventful day when she was just doing errands in the house and soon realized what had transpired while in the bathroom. So after she was done with the kitchen and the living room, Paula wanted to go and clean the bathroom before taking a bath. And she was just done with a good scrubbing on the floor when she decided to just stand back and survey her work. She then prepared herself to take a bath when she suddenly felt an emptiness on her hands. Strangely, something felt off. We know that a diamond costs a lot. It's one of the most expensive rings one could ever buy. And so her diamond-encrusted wedding ring was definitely something precious. She realized that it was absent on her finger, but Paula was sure that she didn't take it off for anything. This meant only one thing for the stressed-out 60-year-old woman. As she found out that her precious ring was not there where it was supposed to be, Paula was traumatized. It was not just a ring with a precious stone, it was a sign of a bond and love she shared with her man. As she scanned through the bathroom, her eyes then got glued on the toilet. She remained still as her eyes were fixed on it. She realized that she indeed had flushed it. So when there was no ring on her finger, Paula started panicking. She immediately looked and scanned everywhere to hopefully find it. After learning that it was gone, she had no choice but to retrace her steps just in case. Paula attempted to remember where she had last placed the ring from her finger. She could not pinpoint the particular time, the day when it was not there. And after she looked all over the house that day in the hopes that a ring would somehow appear, Paula's efforts went in vain. In the end, her eyes went to the toilet once more. She had no choice but to curse her luck because, after all, this was one of the worst things that could happen to a married couple. She knew there was no chance to find it if it indeed got lost there. And after she did whatever she could possibly do to find where the ring was, Paula had to face the fact. The ring was gone and there was possibly zero chance of finding it. And Paula had to summon the courage to break the news to her husband. She then Googled in hopes that she would stumble upon an easier way to inform her man. And so, with the help of the internet, Paula did not find a good way to inform her husband about what she'd lost. However, it would not be easy to tell her man, Michael Stanton, anyhow. The website wrote, "It's important to tell him or her immediately. The stress of keeping a secret is wearing, and a delay may erode trust between the two of you. Be direct, apologize, and be understanding if your spouse becomes angry." So when her husband got back from work, Paula had to find a way to let him know that she'd lost something so precious. This was the part she feared the most because she did not know how her husband would react to this news. It was lucky for her because he was not a hot-tempered guy, but Michael was sad to hear that it would still never be seen again. Since he knew that this was not an intentional incident, he found a way to accept it without getting mad at Paula. As a matter of fact, when he came home to see that his wife was in such sorrow about the missing ring, he knew he had to do something to fix it. He then commissioned another ring, just for her. But the original ring getting lost still affected her heavily. Exchanging rings is one of the most crucial key points that almost every wedding has. The ring has a deep meaning to the couple, as it's often a token of their love and appreciation for each other. "It was heartbreaking," Stanton added. "I was embarrassed to tell my husband because it was meaningful. She felt so guilty and irresponsible." Since she adored her ring and everything that it represented, Paula could not shake off the void it left when she lost it. She would often think about it every day, and each time she'd look at her hand, she'd be reminded, that's not the original, just a replacement. This haunted her too much, so much so that she spoke to Ted Gogol, her friend who worked in the Public Works Department, for help. So, since Paula's lost ring still haunted her even after all these years, she knew she had to put out an effort once more. And after looking around, she somehow felt like her friend Ted would be able to help. There was only one question she had for this man, and this was her only query. Have you or any of your team ever come across her ring after all these years? And although she was hopeful and a little anxious to know the answer, she had to listen to what he had to say. After asking if her ring was ever found, she got her answer. It was unfortunate because Ted gave her the answer she didn't want. The answer was no. But soon after, something miraculous would happen, with Paula and Michael unaware. So after Paula tried everything in her power to get her ring back, it all failed. Though she hoped that Ted would be able to help, she was left with a piece of disappointing news. However, after just a few months of this conversation with Ted, there was news about a shiny object being half buried in the muck. The workers had found this in the sewer line about 400 feet from the Stanton home. Ted had to inform Paula that her ring had not been found by them or any of his co-workers the last time they met. But when there was a ring with seemingly valuable stones embedded on it in the sewer line, he knew what it was. As soon as he picked it up, he was left in shock. He could immediately tell this was Paula's wedding ring. So after being lost for almost a decade, the ring was finally found. It had been there laying barely out of the Stanton's neighborhood block. The ring had now reached a far-off distance and had remained in Paula's property for all these years. And since he knew this was important for her, he could not wait to tell her this. He told her to give him a call. And so right after discovering where the ring was, Ted quickly started thinking of how he could give the ring back to Paula. He wanted this to be special and went to their address. He then left a note on the couple's door where he told them to give him a call as soon as they could. This was with good news. He was excited and waited for their call. So Ted placed the note on the door since he did not have the means to contact the couple. But as soon as Paula returned home, she read the note and immediately could not control her racing mind. She could feel herself shivering with excitement and tears of happiness streamed down her cheeks. He'd left his phone number, which only meant one thing. And since he'd written that he had good news, Paula could tell that this was something that would make her happy. Did Ted and his co-workers find a ring, or maybe parts of it? Perhaps a piece of diamond had been found. She could hardly wait for what he had to say to her. She hurriedly took her phone in her hand and dialed his number. So when Paula was slowly coming into terms that she was never going to get her ring back, something incredible happened. She was able to reunite with her ring that had been gifted to her by her husband in celebration of their 20th wedding anniversary. We can all tell that this was a wonderful experience, that it would make anyone happy. Paula had been waiting so long for this day to come, and when it finally did, she had to share her incredible news with other people. Nobody could believe it. Everybody was in a state of shock, revealed Paula on her social media post. I was calling my kids and telling people about it. My family had a difficult year, and for this to happen. So we must have all heard of wonderful incidents happening around the holiday season, most often called Christmas miracles. So since the time when Paula called Ted and the whole amazing discovery took place during the weeks near Christmas, it was like Paula's very own Christmas miracle. The call happened a number of weeks away from the festive season. Paula was ecstatic to learn about her wedding ring being found by Ted. She'd been worried for so long, so for her to finally reunite with it was truly a fulfilling moment. She could not stop praising Ted since he was being such an honest person for returning the ring. For all we know, he could have kept the ring and sold it for a huge sum of money. And indeed, Ted would give the ring back to Paula. Why would he not? To see that Paula was still affected after so many years by this loss was enough for him to want to help her. It was just a mere coincidence that the woman had approached him to ask if he'd found a ring or not. They were bound to have found the ring nonetheless. So soon after she went to seek help from Ted, a few months passed. Then he and his crew were working when they finally stumbled upon Paula's lost wedding ring. This was indeed the said ring that he managed to dig up. There was no doubt that he would give this back to Paula, and that his efforts were mainly due to her plea for help from him. That ring didn't want to leave her family, Gogol explained. There are so many things that could have happened. It could have been washed away, it could have been crushed, but it was just meant to be. The chances seem bleak though, right? To find just one ring in just one of over 1,000 manholes underneath Summers Point where Paula resides was unbelievable. I was thrilled, Stanton stated when she spoke to interviewers. Stunned, I could not believe it. After she received her ring, she made a vow to both Ted and Michael that she would never lose her ring again. This story is one that definitely makes you realize how much impact a ring has, be it a wedding, engagement, or anniversary ring. Just how many people lose them. So it appears that losing a ring is not a rare incident. An incredible 1 in 10 couples lose an engagement or wedding ring in just 5 years of exchanging it. What would be the main reason for this loss, then, you ask? Well, it was exactly what Paul had done. Over a third of these cases lose rings since they fall down the drain. And what about the other cases then? So the most common reason for losing rings is, as we mentioned, the kitchen or bathroom related mishaps, 34%. And then 29% of people would misplace it, while another quarter, 27%, claim their rings fall off their finger. Only 1 in 5, 18%, is then related to swimming accidents. So who do you think is more prone to losing a ring, men or women? At the end, we want to know your opinion about the story in the comments box below.